Does this look like Durga to you? Probably not. If you live in India, practice yoga in California, or study Tantra in Portugal, you probably have a very different image of Durga. This is a Balinese Durga. It was painted by the artist I Ketut Gedé and is likely to represent a scene out of the Javanese text Sudamala, in which Durga convinces Klika, or Klika in Balinese, to do her bidding. In this video, I'm going to tell you about Durga and how she differs from India to Java to Bali. My name is Catherine Wellen. I'm a historian of Indonesia, a yogini, and a senior researcher at the Royal Netherlands Institute for Southeast Asian and Caribbean Studies. On this channel, I present Balinese history and culture in ways meant to appeal to practitioners of yoga, as well as non-Western history buffs and armchair tourists. I've long found Durga to be especially fascinating because I'm interested in divine feminine energy, and Durga's got a lot of divine feminine energy. So, you can imagine why I wanted to learn about Durga and make space for her in my inner world. I started reading everything I could about Durga, which was a lot because I live in a town with a very good research library. The goddess Durga is considered by some to embody the active power of the feminine. She's often depicted holding various accoutrements of her spiritual development and martial prowess in her many hands, and riding a tiger or a lion. You can see the tiger clearly depicted in this image from Mandi in the northwestern Himalayas. Durga is sometimes considered to be the energy behind spiritual awakening. She's fierce in a tough love kind of way and has little tolerance for weakness, neither her own nor anyone else's. Her capacity to inspire achievement is reflected in the etymology of her name. Durga is derived from the Sanskrit roots dur, meaning difficult, and gam, meaning pass or go through. Durga also means fortress, which suits her role as a warrior goddess. Durga is popular among Indian women as an icon of power and liberation. She also has become a popular Ishta Devi, or primary deity, for women seeking to reclaim their power and achieve even the loftiest of their dreams. On Bali, Durga is also implicated in outstanding achievements, but in a very different way. On Bali, Durga is considered to be the patron of sorcery. I will get to that, but first, let's trace Durga's journey from India to Java to Bali. It's likely that Durga originated with the indigenous non-Aryan peoples of India, because there are no similar goddesses in the Vedic tradition, and because she's associated with tribal peoples and peripheral areas. In the words of Timothy Lubin, she's got a very small Vedic footprint. Durga did, however, become well established across the subcontinent as the protector of the cosmos and as a beautiful warrior goddess. She's portrayed as very independent and as a skilled warrior who can hold her own in battle against any adversary. One of the best-known texts about Durga is the Devīmāhātmya, in which she's said to pervade the universe, creating it, maintaining it, and periodically destroying it in accordance with cosmic rhythms. But in addition to being a destroyer, she's also a comforter. In the Devīmāhātmya, Durga herself says that she listens to the prayers of those who worship her and can be called upon to help them in times of distress. So, in India, Durga already had a dualistic nature. On the one hand, she was a great goddess who protected her followers and ensured agricultural fertility. But on the other hand, she wreaked havoc with humans if displeased. On Java, her conquering nature was emphasized further. Durga came to be represented in two main ways. The first as Durga the demon slayer, and the second as Durga in a demonic form herself. This second form, the demonic form of Durga found in East Javanese literature and art, represents a major conceptual shift, but it still had antecedents in India. It's really hard to trace these shifts because Indic influences spread to Southeast Asia at different times, in different ways, and from different places. Even so, you can see elements of this evolution in Southeast Asian art. Let's take a look. Take a look at this statue of Durga from East Java. Notice that she's not shown slaying the buffalo demon. Such representations of Durga are rare in Indonesia. Instead, she's depicted right after she has vanquished the demon. This gives her a calmer, more serene countenance. Notice also that she's standing on a lotus leaf. But this Javanese Durga still radiates power and energy. She's facing forward with her 8 arms spread out on either side, emphasizing her scary nature. She also has bulging eyes and an open mouth, showing pointed teeth that you might even call fangs. On her right-hand side, so your left, she's balancing or spinning a flaming throwing disc on the index finger of one of her hands. And in another hand, she's holding prayer beads. On her other side, she's holding a battle horn made from shell as well as a drum. She's wearing 3 bracelets on each wrists and 2 bracelets on each upper arm for a total of 40 bracelets. She's also wearing a diadem with ribbons flowing upwards into the sky, and she may have had a headdress that is broken off. Here's another Durga from Java. This is from Candi Singhasari. Notice how she has a peaceful, dreamy expression. This serene expression seems to be a locally developed feature, and it characterizes many of the sculptures at Candi Singhasari. You can also see that she has a very elaborate crown. It's actually bedecked with skulls. The skulls indicate Durga's Saivite origins and her association with Shiva's destructive aspects. It also reflects her mission to combat cosmic disorder and attests to her invincibility as a warrior, capable of sacrificing humans as need be. The skulls also illustrate how some of the characteristics associated with Kali in the Indian subcontinent are associated with Durga in Indonesia. Furthermore, the skulls suggest Durga's role in funerary rituals. The cemetery is where connections with the terrestrial worlds are abolished, and it's here that Durga comes to play a large role, especially on Bali. Now let's take a look at some Durga statues from Bali. This is an unusual Durga image from Pura Kadarman and Kutri. Her figure is long and her left leg is extended unusually far, and her right hip is sticking out. Nothing can be seen of her face, but she still has numerous arms bearing weapons and stands on the demon buffalo. This second Balinese Durga is from a different temple in Kutri. Notice her legs in this picture, or rather, notice what you can still see of her legs in this picture. They're in a dancing position. They resemble a position in the East Javanese dance Gremo, which is a welcome dance some people say is geared towards male audience members. It has been suggested that this leg position suggests a sort of sexual vitality. Also notice that she has teeth on her head ornament and that she's holding a snake and a variety of weapons, including a discus. The shell she's holding also has wings, which has been identified as a characteristic of figures from Kutri. I would like to discuss one more Balinese statue of Durga. That is the Durga statue from Pura Medui Karang on the north shore of Bali. Unfortunately, I do not have a good photograph of it. This temple is most famous for an image of a Dutchman riding a bicycle, and I don't even have a good picture of that. I went at the wrong time of day, and the lighting is all wrong. But in the literature, I have read about the statue of Durga at Pura Medui Karang. The economist, come colonial official, come Indologist, Christian Johan Hrader, equates this Durga statue with Rangda. Rangda is a demon queen who features in the Rangda Barong dances that are performed ritually and for tourists. Rangda is clearly associated with Durga on Bali, and some people even equate the two. It's a tricky equation though, because Durga has multiple roles in Balinese society, and Rangda is a very complex character. Furthermore, in numerous literary sources, such as Calon Arang, about which I'm going to tell you in a minute, Rangda appears as a devotee of Durga. That being said, the consonance between Rangda and Durga is strong. Now, back to Pura Madui Karang. Hrada wrote an article about Pura Madui Karang, which he published in Java. He identifies the sculpture of Durga in her manifestation as Rangda. He describes her sitting with her knees far apart and with her genitalia in view. She has her right hand on the head of a small figure behind her knee, and her right foot is on top of a miniature cow. Hrada argues that this statue represents an accommodation of the entire history of old Javanese art to local Balinese conceptions. He connects Durga to Rangda, Rangda to witchcraft, including black magic and love magic, and accords a strong sexual character to this statue, further linking it to fertility. Jane Bellow writes that such shrines to Durga are very rare on Bali, so I do wish I had a decent picture for you. Jane Bellow also noted in the 1930s that the use of the name Durga is rare on Bali. Decades later, the Balinese scholar Niwayan Pasek Ariati recalled her grandfather, a temple priest, forbidding her from mentioning Durga by name. This was because Durga is considered to be very powerful and capable of causing troubles for humans if she's displeased with their behavior. So, on Bali, Durga is known by the epithets Ratu Ayu, Idapatari, and I Ayu. But just because Balinese people do not often refer to her by name, that doesn't mean she isn't there. On the contrary, Durga has a palpable presence on Bali. Most villages have at least one temple dedicated to her. It's often located near the burial and cremation grounds and is called the Pura Dalam. Accordingly, Durga is sometimes referred to as Batara Rindalam, or the goddess of the Pura Dalam. Durga is portrayed as having a somewhat more demonical character on Bali than in India. Durga's spouse, Lord Shiva, is known as the Destroyer, but on Bali, Durga herself is more renowned for her destructive characteristics than her husband. Check out how peaceful Lord Shiva looks in this Balinese painting of him by I Ketut Gedé. The emphasis on Durga's demonic nature may stem partly from the manner in which Durga was portrayed in the literature of Majapahit, especially because Javanese literature is very influential on Bali. For example, Sutta Soma, a court epic composed by Mpu Tantular, depicts Durga as a frightening goddess who resides in cemeteries. She protects those who worship her and facilitates their victories. For his devotion, Durga rewards Sutta Soma with a mantra which enables its user to destroy evil powers and implicitly to obtain freedom from misfortune. So Durga has destructive capabilities and sometimes grants these to her devotees, but it's all part of a balance. Another story that offers insights about Durga on Bali is Calon Arang. This text very clearly illustrates Durga's role as a destroyer. Calon Arang tells the story of a widow by the same name who has a very beautiful daughter. But because Calon Arang is a sorceress, nobody wants to marry her daughter. Angry, Calon Arang decides to take it out on the entire society. She takes her special book and her followers to a graveyard where they dance and ask Durga for permission to spread disease and destruction. Durga agrees but cautions Calon Arang to avoid destroying the center of the kingdom. The story continues with Calon Arang spreading disease, the king sending soldiers to stop her, Calon Arang incinerating the soldiers just by looking at them, the king consulting with holy men, one of the holy men finding a husband for Calon Arang's daughter, the revival of many dead people, and then the death of Calon Arang. And then Calon Arang is brought back to life, and then she dies again. But what's important for our purposes are the insights that it provides about Durga. Calon Arang illustrates the ritual steps one must take to worship Durga. In this tale, the steps are: read a magical text, go to the cremation grounds and dance, and ask for blessings and/or permission. It also shows how Durga sets limits for the destruction she will permit. Other literary works, which I won't go into here, indicate that the best time and place to worship Durga are at night in the cremation grounds, and that the purpose of worshipping her is to acquire great magical power. This magical power can be used for both good and bad. As the progenitor of disease, Durga can also grant magical powers to cure. Balinese farmers sometimes appeal to Durga to end plagues. Because she controls the forces that cause infestations, she can exterminate even the most persistent pests and diseases. This text, Usara Chukilaki, contains mantras to keep pests away from crops. Durga also plays a role in protection. The Balinese scholar Niwayan Pasek Ariati notes that Balinese people sometimes use Durga amulets or drawings as a means of protecting themselves. Durga is also often associated with babanket offerings intended to maintain order and harmony. She's of central importance to being in balance because she controls the darker forces. Obviously, control over both sides of the equation is needed to ensure balance. If there were no evil in the world to cause sickness and death, then the world would overflow and result in chaos. Similarly, if there were no creation, then the world would be uninhabited and purposeless. On a personal level, one needs to have control over one's darker side in order to maintain a sense of inner harmony. One also needs to use all of one's strength in order to achieve one's full potential. And yet, women in particular are still expected to downplay our accomplishments and demonized if we don't. In the business world, women who display fierceness are quickly labeled as bitches, while men with the same characteristics are admired. In fact, being a mama bear to protect one's child is one of the few circumstances in which fierceness is considered a desirable characteristic among women. And on Bali, if a woman is unusually successful, be it in financial, professional, or other spheres, people might say, bias mulia. This means that she has attained her success through the use of black magic. It further implies that she can magically take on a dangerous and powerful body with the blessings of the goddess Durga. The ways in which powerful women are demonized may differ, but the message is unfortunately the same. The sad truth is that women must walk a fine line between confidence and suspicion. Social expectation and gender biases prevent us from pursuing our dreams and enjoying our achievements. So, the next time that you feel someone might be suspicious of your success, think of Durga. Think of the Javanese Durga's serene expression after she vanquishes the demon. And think of all the power that the Balinese Durga bestows on her followers. Smile and let people suspect that you are powerful enough to vanquish evil in order to achieve your dreams and the greater good. Whether or not you can relate to being viewed suspiciously or demonized because of your strength and accomplishments, I hope that you enjoyed this video about Durga in the archipelago. Thank you for watching. Matur Suksma.